Debbie keeps struggling. It's so hard to watch because she's stuck in the same patterns, doing the same things that haven't worked for her in the past, just continuing to be her own worst enemy. Ask any psychologist and they'll tell you they see lots of Debbies. Why are we talking about this? Because it applies to Palestinians too. Welcome back, and thank you for wanting to know the facts and the truth. What's going on in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is big. You can't miss it on the news. You can't miss it on college campuses, and you really can't miss it online. But what are the facts? Why is this happening? That's what we're here to answer. Our approach is to examine the major themes and focus on the important events that help you make sense of what's happening today. We care about knowing the truth. We also care about the basic human right to live in peace. We care about ending the suffering. We care about finding justice. And we think you're here because you do too. The only path for us then is to go after the facts and be open to what they show us. Life can be beautiful without hatred, violence, and war, and maybe the way there starts with better understanding each other. Better understanding the Jewish people, the Palestinian people, the history of their conflicts and past peace efforts, and some of the major issues standing in the way of forging real peace. What the Hell is Going On in Gaza is a 9-part series made up of 30 episodes, each designed to help you understand a different but important part of the picture. As part 3 of our series continues, we stay focused on the question, how did we get here? To do that, we'll look back on the significant events that really shaped the dynamics of what we're seeing today. Here in episode 16, we'll talk about the continuing conflicts between Israel, the Palestinians, and other Arab nations. There were many. So let's get started. What happened after the Arabs lost the 1948 Arab-Israeli War? Did they reconsider their approach and seek peace with Israel? Did they see that joint prosperity was better than hatred, violence, and misery? Definitely not. The fundamental issue, as we've discussed before, is that the Arab world was not willing to accept Israel's right to exist. They rejected the idea when it was expressed in the Balfour Declaration in 1917, when it was proposed by the Peel Commission in 1937, when it was outlined in the 1947 UN Partition Plan, and in 1948 when it became a reality. And they continued to reject it after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. So the Arab world attacked Israel again and again and again. From 1948 right through 2023, you can see attack after attack. Israel's Arab neighbors and the Palestinians have been relentless in their attacks on Israel. After the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the Fedayeen insurgency continued until 1967, with fighters from the PLO, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria attacking Israel whenever and wherever they could. For nearly 20 years, Arab guerrillas infiltrated into Israel from Syria, Egypt, and Jordan to carry out attacks against Israeli civilians and soldiers. Then it was the 1967 Six-Day War, when Egypt and Jordan brought war again to Israel. Then were joined by Syria, Iraq, and fighters from Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the PLO. Then it was the War of Attrition from 1967 to 1970, when Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and the PLO, with support from the Soviet Union, attacked Israel. Then it was the Yom Kippur War of 1973, when a coalition of Arab nations led by Egypt and Syria jointly launched a surprise attack against Israel on the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. Then it was the Palestinian insurgency in Lebanon, which lasted from 1971 to 1982, when the PLO and Lebanese forces attacked Israel and Lebanese Christian militias. Syria joined the attacks too. Then it was the South Lebanon conflict, which lasted from 1985 to 2000. Hezbollah, along with Lebanese and other Islamist militia forces, attacked and fought Israel and the Christian South Lebanon Army. Then it was the First Intifada from 1987 to 1993, in which Hamas and the PLO led sustained rioting in the West Bank, Gaza, and within Israel. Then it was the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2005, in which Hamas and the PLO again led a major uprising by Palestinians against Israel. Ironically, the second intifada was triggered by the failure of the Camp David summit, though that failure was specifically as PLO chairman Yasser Arafat intended. Then it was the 2006 Lebanon War in Lebanon, northern Israel, and the Golan Heights, caused by Hezbollah launching attacks on Israeli cities and the Israeli military. Then it was the 2008 Gaza War, when Hamas and other Palestinian terrorist groups launched a large-scale rocket attack on Israel in response to Israel disrupting a Hamas terror plot. Then it was the 2012 Israeli Gaza operation, launched by Israel in response to a major rocket attack and terrorist attacks by Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Then it was the 2014 Gaza War, initiated again by Hamas. This time, Hamas-affiliated Palestinian militants kidnapped and murdered 3 Israeli teenagers in the West Bank. When Israel then arrested Hamas militants, Hamas responded with another major rocket attack into Israel from Gaza. Then it was the 2021 Israel-Palestine crisis, when Hamas and multiple Islamist militant groups led riots by Palestinians in East Jerusalem over an anticipated decision by the Supreme Court of Israel to evict 6 Palestinian families in East Jerusalem. And then it was the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, triggered by Hamas's brutal attack on Israeli civilians. The number of these conflicts, the frequency of these conflicts, and the representation from all over the Arab world show that the purpose has always been to destroy Israel and exterminate the Jews. If it were anything else, then surely one of Israel's many offers of peace would have led to serious negotiations and an independent Palestinian state. It wasn't only the surrounding Arab nations that kept attacking Israel. The PLO attacked too. Let's talk about who the PLO is. The Palestine Liberation Organization was founded in 1964 by the Arab nations to establish an Arab state over all of Palestine and expressly to bring about the elimination of the State of Israel. A founding principle of the PLO was that armed struggle was the only path. Yasser Arafat was the internationally famous leader of the PLO from 1969 to 2004. He stated very clearly his and the PLO's goal as reported by the Washington Post in March 1970. Quote, "We shall never stop until we can go back home and Israel is destroyed. The goal of our struggle is the end of Israel, and there can be no compromises or mediations. The goal of this violence is the elimination of Zionism from Palestine in all its political, economic, and military aspects. We don't want peace, we want victory. Peace for us means Israel's destruction and nothing else." The PLO, the sole representative of the Palestinian people, pursued an ongoing campaign of terrorism and destruction, exactly in line with the strategy of Arab leaders since the turn of the century. The PLO embraced terrorism, murdering Israeli athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, killing schoolchildren at Ma'alat in 1974, attacking Israeli tourist buses along the Haifa to Tel Aviv coastal highway in 1978, hijacking the Achille Lauro cruise ship in 1985 and murdering disabled American Jewish passenger Leon Klinghoffer, just to mention a few. The PLO was so violent and disruptive that it didn't take long before it was unwelcome in other Middle Eastern states. While headquartered in Jordan, the PLO openly called for the overthrow of the Jordanian monarchy, terrorized and robbed Jordanians, killed Jordanian policemen, and continuously launched rockets into Israel from Jordan. By the 1970s, Jordan had had enough. Its military expelled the PLO in a brutal, full-scale war. The PLO then moved into Lebanon, where it tried to overthrow Lebanon's government, leading to a bloody civil war within 4 years, a civil war that started Lebanon's slide into chaos and conflict from which it still hasn't recovered. Kuwait had such problems with the Palestinians that it ultimately expelled 300,000, at the time representing 18% of Kuwait's population. The final straw was that the Palestinian population in Kuwait openly supported Iraq when it invaded the country in 1990. After being driven out of Lebanon, the PLO moved its headquarters to Tunisia, but the PLO soon wore out its welcome there too. As the New York Times reported, quote, "In the late 1980s, the Tunisians, troubled by upheavals among its own people and eager to avert other problems, withdrew the Tunisian passports that had been granted to some PLO officials and canceled residence permits of others. As the PLO's tactics and conduct weakened its standing among other Arab nations, and at the same time, its exile to Tunisia weakened its direct connections to the Palestinian people, Arafat became willing to engage in talks with Israel. The 1993 Oslo Accords and meetings in the years leading up to Oslo signaled a real opportunity for peace, or so it seemed. As part of the accords, the PLO agreed to recognize Israel's sovereignty and to seek Palestinian statehood only for the West Bank and Gaza. In addition, the Palestinian Authority was established to serve as a 5-year interim instrument of self-government for Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. In part, the PA was created to establish a nonviolent political entity for Palestinian governance after so many decades of terrorism by the PLO. Unfortunately, none of it worked. In episode 18, we'll explain more, but the short version is that once the PLO felt emboldened by renewed public support, it torpedoed the peace process by reintroducing, after more than 7 years of negotiations, an impossible demand for the right of return for all Palestinian refugees. And the Palestinian Authority? It was co-opted by Arafat, establishing himself as its head and populating it with the same people who ran the PLO. The 5-year point at which the PA was supposed to be replaced came and went more than 25 years ago, and the violence continued. Since the signing of the Oslo Accords, Israel has suffered terrorist attacks on buses, restaurants, discotheques, shopping malls, universities, civilian homes, and checkpoints. Israeli soldiers have even been caught and lynched. The long list of perpetrators, militant groups who use terrorism to attack Israelis, reflects widespread Palestinian opposition to Israel's existence or peace with Israel. There's Fatah's Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, Islamic Jihad's Al-Quds Brigades, the Al-Nasser Salah al-Din Brigades, the Abu Ali Mustafa Brigades, National Resistance Brigades, the Lion's Den, the Mujahideen Brigades, the Salafi Jihadis, and of course, Hamas's Izz al-Din al-Qassam Brigades, and many more. The attacks happen no matter what Israel does. It's not because they want a state for Palestinians. It's because they don't want a state for Jews. This cartoon says a lot. In the view of the Arab world, there is no room for Israel. It's remarkable when you think about the size of Israel compared to the Arab nations that surround it. Israel is tiny in comparison, yet it seems to be completely intolerable to these Arab nations that Israel exists at all. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War did nothing to end the conflict between Arabs and Jews. What followed were more wars, more conflicts, and more terrorism. What animates Palestinian hatred of Israel and drives these unending cycles of violence is still a fundamental refusal to accept the existence of a Jewish state in the Middle East. Thank you for continuing to watch this series. We hope you got a better understanding of the facts around the continuing conflicts and wars after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. If you'd like to leave a comment or get in touch, visit our website at www.getthefactsmiddleeast.com. There's a lot more to learn in this series. We hope you'll move on to episode 17, where we'll take a closer look at the issues related to Israel's borders and how they've changed since 1948. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your interest in learning more about the war in Gaza. And remember, where there is no knowledge, there can be no insight.